This is your daily briefing. You're most welcome to it. A lot of discussion with the fans in respect of Antonio Conte. Clearly the football isn't particularly appealing. The style we're playing, there's no sort of do or dare, there's no vim or vigour. And I thought it might be useful to go through the sporting game to see if that, led us to any other thoughts, any other possible conclusions. In relation to the VAR, I have to say I'm bored to tears with the people jumping up and down screaming about the unfairness of it all. I've done a piece on my Substack, a link in the description. My take on the VAR situation is there's nothing wrong with the technology. It's the implementation of it. It's the way it's deployed. It's the people operating it. And look, we've been interested in football all our lives. Referees are by their very nature pedants. So do you want the technology applied ruthlessly by a pedant? And people are talking about toenails and eyelashes, being the difference of a player being onside or offside. Or do you want it employed softly, which is to say, do you want to compromise it? And I say that there are only two options. You implement it ruthlessly and cause carnage as the officiating people involved in the thing, because it wasn't the referee that made the decision, it was the people in a little room somewhere. Do you want it done like that, or do you want to scrap it and go back to how it used to be? Because I don't see there being a halfway house. I don't see any logic in people saying, well, in those situations you really should award it to the attacking team, or in those situations you should really award it to the defending team, because that's just a mess. That's just kind of, okay, yeah, I've got it's come back from the boys in the lab. What we're going to do is we're going to toss a coin. No, that doesn't work. And it goes against the whole business of why we brought the technology in the first place, which to me is laughable, because when there are humans, it is inevitable there will be human error. This is like the sort of tactical analysis overview. Hopefully I'm doing this in a way that you can digest it and make your own mind up, most importantly, because what I'm giving you here are indisputable facts, but my conclusions that I've drawn from looking at them. So this isn't like the Holy Scripture or anything, but it is pretty accurate. But you tell me. So Spurs, let's look at the way we lined up. Now, we know what the starting 11s were, but the way we lined up, pop those on the screen for you there, those are the average positions when the ball went into, underway, when the game was going. Spurs lined up with what was certainly Antonio Conte's strongest available starting 11, because there were rumours over people not being available. And the likes of Højbjerg played for example, and with Romero as well, because both of them had question marks over them. We can look how the team was set up. Extremely high line from Tottenham compared to recent games. And if you just look there, you've got Eric Dyer actually inside the centre circle, which, just tells you lots. This backs up what unfolded, given the lack of creativity in his midfield. This is an assumption by me. That Conte had a plan that was to use the back line to support our forward ambitions. And that's why we saw certain players up the other end of the park getting into the thick of it. One observation I'd make is that with the personnel available, this had mixed results. Eric Dyer, for example, was able to get involved offensively, but he's actually less useful attacking than he is defending. There's a graphic here for you showing his shots on the Sporting goal. The shot that was on target was okay. It was definitely a thought of the moment to have a welly at it. That said, Conte hasn't the luxury of enough players that are fit for his purposes. Perisic is an excellent example of this. Is more useful offensively, providing the cross with Bentancur's great goal. Further 3 shot assists, but he was really sloppy with the ball. And just to underline that, reinforce that, Ivan received the ball on a record number of 40 occasions, which is really up on his usual rate. It's only equalled by his performance against Everton, and that was midway this month. His passing accuracy to the final third against the Toffees was an outstanding 78% on that occasion. But against Sporting, veteran hit 42% passing accuracy in the final third. It's really hit and miss. Speaking of passing accuracy, here's how it went in the game. Graph there shows you how things started off okay and went drastically downhill. Recent games have seen Spurs descend into Keystone Cop territory in terms of passing and activity, and an unkind soul would say that this graph demonstrates that we soon brought Sporting Lisbon down to our level. What is infuriating is that just after we equalised, the quality of our passing collapsed further, which meant that our focus went. Looking at ball possession is a thing I don't have much time for. I'm more interested in what you did with it rather than how long you had it, misses. But in the second half, we enjoyed more of the possession, but again, we were increasingly wasteful, with accuracy falling away. Again, this is easily explained by not having the correct personnel. And if we look at recoveries per minute, well, that was a redeeming feature, as when the panic set in, we really did harry and we won back an awful lot of the ball. Now, I'm afraid this next graph isn't going to show well unless you're watching this on a big HD TV. But speaking of harrying, if we look at the Tottenham shots on the Sporting goal, Kane is noticeable by his absence here. Again, this points to the chaotic nature of our offensive play. Surely getting the ball to Kane isn't an unusual tactic, or is Conte so deranged tactically he's using the England captain as some sort of smokescreen? There simply are too many players taking shots on the list there who really aren't qualified to do so, which may sound unkind, but for goodness sakes, if you're going to have the likes of Sonny and Kane there, Bentancur, as I say, his finishing was absolutely superb. Maybe that can be an element to his game, but as it stands, there's people getting involved that aren't really adept at finishing the thing off. Perhaps, and this is where I'm heading here, perhaps if a creative midfielder is making an increased number of crucial decisions, those decisions might result in better outcomes. I'm talking about a Maddison and Eriksson type character who wouldn't choose to have a go, but they lay the thing off thoughtfully to somebody who, as I say, is qualified to have a go, like Sonny or Kane, or indeed have a go themselves because they've got a decent enough strike on them. Crossing the ball successfully remains something that mostly happens to other people. 10 good crosses out of an attempted 41 is poor, and will certainly not scare anyone we play in the last 16 of this competition. For those of you jumping up and down that we're progressing, yeah, sure we are, but it's about it's about as exciting, about as meaningful as our league position. We're getting beaten by teams that are any good and picking up our points off of junk. I know what cannot speak cannot lie, but there's no point dressing it up that this is, we're firing on all cylinders, because we're not. Mentions in dispatches, Perisic was king of the ground duels, won 60%, which is pretty rock solid. Romero, absolutely sensational. 82% total successful action. So again, that's that overarching stat. Throw-ins, passes, tackling, blah, blah. 82% of everything you did came good. You build teams around players like that. You win championships with players like that. Brian Gill's 73% passing accuracy was a huge bonus. He managed to stay on his feet, which was just historic. Lucas Moura, 43% total successful actions, absolutely summed him up. He's a spent force. I don't want to hear any excuses. Thanks for Ajax. So long and farewell. And let's just go back there for a second to 82% successful actions from Christian Romero. Bang, yes please. And then Lucas Moura, virtually half. Dreadful, absolutely dreadful. And I'll leave you with this, because again, I don't think it's Conte. I think it's the resources. And you can't say, or you can, but you can't just keep shouting, bring on Spence, bring on Gill, in the hope that something is magically going to happen. Conte ball yielded 191 forward passes compared to their lot's 126 forward passes. So from that, you could say, it's a sweeping statement, but you could say it's not the tactics, it's the squad. Go back to that first image I showed you, how we were set up. He had them in an advanced, wanting to drive forward set up. That's how everybody was put out on the pitch, and we passed the ball forward a lot. Look, this is the second coach with the same group of players, because it happened under Mourinho as well. And Mourinho was asked about it, and I think Conte's been asked about it. Neither coach told them to sit deep and to pass the ball sideways and backwards. And this is showing us from certainly the Sporting Lisbon game that, he had them set up to go forward, to pounce, and they passed the ball forward a lot. So you've got to say to yourself, it's down to the players, because not much has changed in the playing personnel. Okay, so have a think about that. And there were some people that I couldn't reach with a spiritualist. I know you're out there, no, it's Conte, he's rubbish, sending back to Italy, mug, he's terrible. But I don't think you're thinking it through. I think you're just sort of, you're a certain audience and you're not my audience. But I don't think it's Conte. I think Conte's got his faults. I'm not a Conte fanboy, but I do appreciate him for what he does, what he has done, and I extend to him professional courtesy. And I don't think this is all down to him. I think it's down to poor resources. And, his contract is up at the end of the season, and they're now saying, he's going to make his mind up after the World Cup. I don't see how he can turn it around in a January window where we've had one good January window in the last decade. But I don't know. I can't see into the future. That's it for now. Good luck. Keep it Tottenham.